Welcome to another session for the hardwares. Now today we will be learning with the sensors. Now sensor is actually an input device that is capturing the data. The major purpose of the sensor is to capture the data and transmit it to the microprocessor. The microprocessor, after the transmission, microprocessor will be taking an action accordingly. Oh, okay, sorry, not it will not be taking, it will be just comparing that data, and then it will be sending to the actuators, that's an output device, or to the motors to perform a particular action. Now do remember, when it comes to the microprocessor, sorry, to the sensor, so in the sensor we do have two different scenarios. Now what are those two different scenarios? First scenario is regarding the monitoring, and the other one is regarding the control. Now monitoring is something that it will be just checking out for that particular stuff. It won't be taking any sort of the action. Yeah, it might give you the alarm, or like if the things are out of the range, so it might give you the alarm or something like that. But when it comes to the control, so for the control, if the things are outside the acceptable range, it will be taking a particular action that you have already stored within your system. Now embedded systems we discussed in the previous sessions. So embedded system is actually utilizing the sensors over here. So do remember, whenever the examiner is asking you that how is that particular sensor is working on, which sensor is working on, what will be the working of the sensor, so you just need to write 5 points over there. What are those 5 points? Yeah, you need to be very much particular about those 5 points. You might see that I have written over here working of a sensor. So do remember, in a working of a sensor, what is going to happen? There are the values that are already stored. The values that are already stored, or that they are already stored over there. So now each time you are going to play your, or you are going to operate your system, so that will take a new value, that will sense a new value, that will input a new value. Now that new value will be compared with this, or that new value will first of all be converted to the digital format. Why to the digital format? Because most of the times the data is in analog format and the stored values are in the digital format. Why so? Because the microprocessor only understands the digital format. So once they are converted into the digital format, yeah, now how they are converted? With the help of the ADC, that's an analog to digital converter. Okay, now with the help of the analog to digital converter, they are converted into the digital format, and once they are converted into the digital format, now what is going to happen? They will be comparing the values that are already stored with the new values. Okay, now if the values are within the range, within the acceptable range, so it won't produce anything. But if the values are outside the acceptable range, okay, now one more thing, might be I just missed that. Where is this comparison taking place? This comparison is taking place within the microprocessor of a system. So you might see that I have mentioned over here, new data is input by the sensor. Data is converted to the digital by an ADC, analog to digital converter. New data is compared with already stored data in a microprocessor. Now, if the data is outside the acceptable range, now what is going to happen? So the alarm will buzz. Okay, now as I just told you that there are two different scenarios, the monitoring and the control. So if this is a monitoring system, so they are saying alarm will buzz, or the lights will start flashing. But if it's a control system, so actuator, as it's an output device, or a motor as it's an output device, will work according to the fed data, or you may say according to the given instructions. And just after that, okay, now for the monitoring only this point will be included, and for the control only this point will be included. The previous point won't be included. And just after that, they are saying the values will be converted back to the analog format, because you are getting, most of the times that you are getting the answer in the analog format, so they will be converted into the analog format by the help of the DAC, this time, that is known as a digital to analog converter. Okay, now there are many of the sensors that are utilized. So I have mentioned over here temperature sensor, that is actually sensing the temperature in the room, or you might say in the factory environment or something like that. Moisture sensor checks the humidity level. Light sensor checks the light, mostly utilized in the solar panels, or you may say utilized in the solar lights as well. Infrared, it is going to check out the movement or something like that. So you may say we are utilizing the infrared when we come to the walk-through gates. So you might see that walk-through gates just open, open up by themselves in the malls, or you might at these places. So how? Because just ahead of 1 feet ahead or 2 feet ahead, there are the infrared passing on, and as soon as you just bifabricate them, basically you just go them, bypass them. So there is a signal, okay, now you need to open up the door. So this door is opened with the help of the actuator. Then we do have pressure sensor and the flow sensor. Both are somewhat similar. They are checking the pressure or the flow of you may say water, and a pressure sensor is also utilized to check the pressure of a gas leakage or something like that. Then we do have the pH sensors to check the acidity of the base. Then gas sensor similarly, and sound sensor checks out for the sound. So this was all for the sensors, and we are done with the input devices. Further on in the next video, we will be discussing with the output devices.